I'm not sure we know what it means to be human. I think our minds try to control our experience of being human, but I don't think that's being human. I think that's being intellectual.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Humanity 2.0 podcast, where we are interviewing humans about humanity. Imagine that. Today's guest is Larry Kesslin, who is the chief connector and also the author of The Joy Molecule. Larry, I am so glad that you are here today. First off and foremost, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. It is a beautiful day. I live in a beautiful place. I'm a very happy human and father of two amazing children that I get to try and steward through this experience we call life. And it's a pleasure to meet you.
You also. Now, we met through Podmatch, correct?
We did.
How long have you been on Podmatch?
I'd say about 2.5 months now. And I've done close to 30 shows already. Been having a lot of fun.
Good. That's awesome.
It's been a blast.
So shout out Podmatch for bringing Larry and I together. If not for Podmatch, we would not be here.
Alex.
Yes, thank you, Alex, and Alicia. She's amazing as well.
Okay.
So you spoke about humanity for a brief second. So I want to ask you, are you a good human and why?
My good human. I don't know. That's subjective. I think I'm a good human. I guess that's what matters in this conversation. I think a good human is someone who cares deeply about others, that we are here to be of service. And that I think the most selfish act we can do is to totally give oneself to someone else or some cause beyond themselves. It is the thing that feels the best to me. So if it's the thing that feels the best to me, that's the most selfish thing I could do. So why wouldn't I do more of that? So that is, I guess, what I would consider being a good human is being caring and wanting to help others. I just believe that we're all here to wake up and to be present to where we are and to help those that are on the path of waking up to wake up more effectively and to look at those that are more awoke than we are and say, what are you seeing that I don't see? And I think it's for me pretty much that simple. Life has become very simple for me in the sense that I'm looking to become more present every day. So meditation, mindfulness, all the things about quieting my mind, making my mind a skillful tool for me to use versus the boss that runs my being, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, it does. Totally. And I think that based on the information you've provided, you are a good human. In case you didn't know.
That.
Yeah.
Yay,
yeah.
I win.
You win. What does he win, Johnny? Oh, well, we'll find out later. I have to start getting prizes, maybe like free dog visits or dog sitting. Do you have dogs?
I do not.
Okay.
Yeah, we had one as a family, but when I left my marriage, I left the dog with my ex-wife and she wanted the dog very much. And I did not want the dog very much. I love dogs, but it's a lot of work.
That it is. It's like a child, basically. You have a furry
It is
child.
another being. It's a member of the family that needs care.
Yeah.
Perpetual child.
Exactly.
Most children grow up. Dogs, they never become independent. They never launch.
Right. But they're so
There's no
loving,
launching
though.
a dog.
Yes, that is true. But they love on you, though, like nobody's business. You know,
They
they really do.
Yeah.
Unlike
My
cats.
ex I used to say all the time, if you treated me the way you treated the dog, we'd still be married. She said, if you treated me the way the dog treats me, we'd still be married. So it is what it is.
Yeah. And now you're in this beautiful place with a beautiful family. And how long have you been married now in your current marriage?
I am not married right now. I've been in a relationship for about a year. It's all good. We're living together and it's a beautiful thing, but I'm not sure marriage is required at this stage of life. I mean, I'm 62. Do I need a piece of paper that says that I'm committed to a relationship?
Nope.
I'm not sure that's true.
Yeah.
And my girlfriend doesn't need that either. And I've talked about giving her a ring I just don't see the need for getting married.
Yeah.
And
no, I totally agree.
I'm committed.
Yeah. I'm actually going through a divorce right now. And so, yeah, I'm 100% there with you. I think that I mean, of course, you wouldn't know the experience without having been through it. But had I known now or had I known then what I know now, yeah, I never would have done it. So, yeah, to be frank, I would not have done it.
I mean, I had 25 years. It was beautiful. We traveled the world. Last count, I think I've been to 42 countries. My daughter, by the age of 15, was on every continent. Other than Antarctica. And she's got a global perspective that most people don't. Yeah, I think the most impactful thing I did for me, but I brought my kids along with this trip to Africa in 2012, where a lot of my perspective on humanity came from. And that trip was life-changing in so many ways. And then I went to a conference about 2 months later and I was asked 3 questions that totally blew my mind and changed my life. Those 3 questions were, what is poverty? Who gets to define it? and why are we trying to fix it?
Mm.
And when I really settled into those 3 questions, I kinda didn't know what was happening to me, and that was 13 and a half years ago. So, I've come to the conclusion that what I witnessed was not poverty. What I witnessed in Africa was impoverishment. Those people were not poor. They were deeply connected, which is what we crave as humans. They were deeply connected to the land because they still farmed it. They were connected to their friends and family members. They were connected to their ancestors because there was no internet to give them all the answers in the world. And they did not put their seniors out to pasture in
Mhm.
retirement villages all over the country. We're a very interesting culture here in the US. And most people that live here don't travel internationally extensively. And if they do travel, they go to a 5-star hotel somewhere and
Mhm.
think that they've visited a country. They've just lived an American experience someplace else. Visiting a country to me is living amongst the people
Mhm.
and getting to know them. So spending time for me in Uganda, Kenya, Nicaragua, Thailand, and Chiang Mai, and being in rural villages all over the world, you get a different perspective.
Yeah.
And I pulled my kids out of school in 2015 and traveled for 6 months. And we stayed in 27 Airbnbs in 12 different countries, spent 2 months in Australia, 3.5 months in
Mhm.
Europe, and a little bit of time in the Middle East. And I just can't even explain the difference between living abroad and living in the United States.
Yeah.
And I don't know. The biggest thing that I tell people about is the questions that people ask. And the question I never got asked when I was traveling internationally is, what do you do? Just wasn't asked. And when I get back to the United States, the first question people ask me is, what do you do? And I started changing my answer. I started avoiding the question. And then I said, no, I got to come up with a better answer. When somebody says, what do you do? I said, first and foremost, I'm a dad. And then I happen to be an athlete and I love sports. I like to cycle. I did a bike ride from San Francisco to San Diego on a tandem with a blind dude. That was amazing.
That's cool.
I played beach volleyball. I played pickleball. I do a lot of things. And then they look at me cross eyed like, no, that's not, you didn't answer my question. I said, I answered your question. I didn't answer it the way you expected me to answer it, which is, how do I make a living?
Mm.
And then I'm wondering why it's so important for you to understand how I make a living. And I asked somebody who was at a event and she's like, so what do you do? I really didn't want to answer the question. And then she asked somebody else what they did and they didn't want to answer it either. And then there was a lull in the conversation. There were like 5 of us at a table. And I turned to her. I said, at the beginning when you first met me, you asked me what I did. And, I was really hesitant to ask you, why do you ask that? Why is that your first question?
Mhm.
She says, well, it informs me a lot about somebody. Most people do what they love. And I'm like, nah. I don't believe that's true. Some, but most people don't know what they love more or less than do what they love.
Mhm.
So I think that we're an interesting animal, really interesting animal. And I don't know if we're sure why we do what we do. I think
Mhm.
that's part of the challenge. So
Yeah.
yeah.
100%. Yeah. I like that you didn't answer that question. I am curious, in these other countries, was there a different question that was initially asked of you?
Yeah. Who are you and why are you doing what you're doing? So my book is all about the joy molecule is all about knowing what you are, who you are, and why you are. And when you answer those 3 questions, you kind of walk this planet in peace because nobody can tell you anything other than who
Uh-huh.
you know yourself to be. And the truth is that for most of my life, I was trying to be what other people expected me to be versus deciding who I wanted to be. And then once I decided who I wanted to be, the question becomes, what am I actually? And that's the biggest question that I'm starting to ask is at the end of the day, what am I? And I'm not a walking mind, but that's how I functioned for over 60 years. And I believe we're beings that have access to a mind and access to a body and feelings, yet we're not our mind. It's the sky and the clouds and the weather analogy.
Uh-huh.
So I am the sky, my thoughts are the clouds, and the weather are my feelings. And that's how I see the world. So when my thoughts are dark and cloudy, then I know they'll pass. And I know that the sky sees them, but I don't need to be attached to them and I don't need to let them run my life. So when you asked me before how I'm doing, every day is an amazing day. I mean, think about it. My mother and my father had this thing called sex. A sperm went into an egg, it duplicated for 9.5 months. I came out. That alone is a miracle.
Uh-huh.
And I came out with 10 toes and 10 fingers and totally healthy and a white male in the United States in the 1960s. I mean,
Uh-huh.
really?
Uh-huh.
Could I have asked for anything better? And my daughter tells me all the time, you're white privileged. Yes, I am. I had totally admit it. I don't know how to be anything but I am generous. I care. I try not to judge, but I'm trained. I've been raised in an American system that reinforces belief systems every day. And I have to unlearn them in order to become the person that I want to be versus the person I was taught to be. In my book, I have something I call the 20-something rule. And I think from birth to 20, the world teaches you who it wants you to be. And from 20 to death, you get a choice. Do I want to be who the world taught me to be, or do I want to be who I was born to be? And I say 1 out of 1,000 are taught to be the person they were born to be. And the rest of us 999 other schmucks, I got to figure it out ourselves. I mean, and there's no rule book and there's no guide. Yeah, in my coaching work, I tell people I'm 007 and I was put into this body at birth. And for the first 20 years, my mind just created all these ideas, but I'm still in there. I'm sitting in the background waiting to wake up and take control of this vehicle, whatever that is. And 007 was never given an instruction manual to this machine. And this machine has certain gifts. And I can explain some of those, how my being works. But people enter my life, other stuff happens. And I meet other people that person needed to meet. And my being is a connector. So I'm what some people would call a super connector. And I just meet lots of people.
Right.
That's why I do love doing podcasting. And somebody said, to be a good guest on a podcast, you're there to make friends with the podcast host.
Maybe.
So I just have conversations with people. I'm not here to sell anything. I'm not here to buy anything. I'm just here to get to know you and understand a little bit more about what you're about and share whatever I've learned on my journey.
And in
that's what we're
turn,
here for.
everything that you share is heard by someone else, audience, whoever hears your message or your story about where you've traveled, the things that you've come back with, and how you've realized that, yes, there is privilege that you have, but you don't use it. It seems like you're more aware of what you can do with it, but in a good way and in a helpful way to help others and to serve others. So I think that's awesome.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. I really do like that you openly say yes. Yeah, totally. I mean, it's true. Sure.
Do I have a choice?
Yeah, no. I mean, you can become someone who is conflicted, and that doesn't serve you, doesn't serve us either. So, in hearing you speak about meeting other types of humans and strangers and such, we believe that we all have moments where another person or another soul reminds us of our shared humanness. Can you tell me a story about someone that surprised you with their level of humanity or empathy or compassion, and that just stayed with you?
Yeah, there's 8 stories in my book, and I'll just pick one. So Jeff Mata. I met Jeff through the Challenged Athletes Foundation, and Jeff is a blind human, lost his sight at 26. And I was cycling with the Challenged Athletes Foundation, and I show up the first day, and there's this tandem bike there, and this woman named Carol, and she hears my shoes clicking because I'm wearing bike shoes, clip-in shoes, and she says, "Hi, I'm Carol." And I look at her, I'm like, "Hi." She doesn't look back at me. She's kind of looking in the neighborhood. She's got these big black glasses on. Turns out she's blind. She's riding on the back of a tandem. Give no thought to it. She's there with this guy, Tom. And halfway through the ride, Tom and Carol pass me on the ride. And I look next to them. They're passing me. I'm like, you know what? I could be the captain on one of those bikes someday. And the thought passed. 3 months later, I'm back at the same ride. I'd gone to New York and back, drove cross country, came back, and I saw Carol on a different bike with a different captain. And I'm like, I'm lost. So I ended up finding about this Blind Stokers Club. And I call the guy who runs the Blind Stokers Club. He gives me a tandem bike and says, if you can learn to become a captain, I'll connect you with blind riders and you can ride tandems with them. So there's this ride for the Challenged Athletes Foundation called the $1 Million Challenge. And it's a ride from San Francisco to San Diego, 640 miles, 7 days on a road bike. And I told the guy who runs the club, I said, if you give me an athlete who happens to be blind, I will do that ride from San Francisco to San Diego with the blind athlete, because I was planning to do it myself anyway in 2022. So in September of 2021, I met Jeff Mata. And Jeff and I spent hundreds of hours on a bicycle. And he has taught me more about patience, about love, about human connection, about so many different things. And we have a bunch of friends in common. One, Miguel de Jesus, who just passed. And I could talk about Miguel for days. He was one of the nicest, kindest humans you've ever met. But Jeff is just this human who walks through the planet with just an appreciation for life, just a love of being human, and has no pretenses about anything. He's truly himself. He's a 3-time world champion in jiu-jitsu. He has completed Kona, the bike ride, the whoops, bye-bye picture. And
Yeah, I'm having
he's an
some issues
amazing
too.
he's an amazing human being.
Yeah.
And I really enjoy having a relationship with Jeff on so many different levels, so many different levels.
Yeah.
So I would say Jeff has showed me a level of empathy and presence because he has nothing to do other than be where he is.
Uh-huh.
So he doesn't spend time grieving about what happened. He says whenever he has a competition and he loses, he gives himself 24 hours for a pity party, and then it's off to the next day.
Uh,
And I greatly appreciate how Jeff Model lives in this world. I really do.
did you apply any of those wisdoms and principles that he gave you in your life and how?
Every day, finding joy is what I seek, and I define joy as being at peace.
Uh-huh.
And Jeff lives every day with peace, no matter what's going on around him, as does Armstrong, who's the first story in the book, who I met in Africa.
Wow.
And he was trying to become a pilot. And I was given $1,000, $1,200 by an airline for losing my bags for 6 days. And I ended up giving the majority of that to Armstrong to go become a pilot. And it's now almost 14 years later, and Armstrong now lives in the United States. He's married, a couple kids. And I moved him here in 2014 and changed his life.
Uh-huh.
And he's changed my life. And you asked me about a person. It's funny, a friend of mine read my book and said, Larry, the stories in your book are amazing. 8 people that most people will never get to meet any one of them, much less all 8. And I have been blessed to meet so many amazing humans. Like, I just can't explain it. I'm just insanely blessed. And I don't know why. And I stopped asking why.
Uh-huh.
It's the same thing about being a super connector. I stopped asking why this being functions the way it does. It just does.
Right.
And I stopped asking those questions and I just accept them as my reality. And that's all I can live this life from is my own reality. And the more I get to realize that I'm a being that is the same being that's inside you, that's inside every listener to this podcast, that I feel like we're all one having this massive experience through individual beings. There's a video on YouTube that I found probably 6, 7 months ago, maybe more, maybe a year ago. It's called Twins in a Womb. It's about 2 twins in a womb trying to figure out the meaning of life. Is there life after delivery?
Uh,
And the conversation is just magical about, well, if it was so wonderful out there, why doesn't anybody ever come back? And maybe when we're out of the one baby says to the other, well, maybe when we're out of here, we'll eat with our mouths and we'll walk with our feet.
uh,
And the other baby says, that's impossible. Scientifically proven that the umbilical cord is what produces feeding for babies. I mean, we just have no clue sometimes about what we truly are. And you ask about humanity, I'm not sure we know what it means to be human. I think our minds try to control our experience of being human,
uh-huh.
but I don't think that's being human. I think that's being intellectual. And we are beings that have a mind. And the day that you realize that your mind is a tool to be used versus defining who you are and your identity is the day when your life changes
Uh.
forever.
I think that people are just naturally drawn to you, because of your peace. And so it makes sense that you would come across so many different types of people, but you also bring out things in people. That's what I perceive at the moment is that you bring out things in people. And so they open up to you, which is an excellent quality to have. You have these meaningful conversations and then you've written about them. So that in turn just gives such nourishment to everyone that's reading them or hearing or watching. So I love that very much for you and
Well, I
that
do
you have your
potluck
peace.
dinners. I'm having a dinner tonight and I've got a little over 20 people coming. And I had a
Wow.
friend who I actually did my podcast with this morning. And the first dinner he came to, he said, that was one of the best meals I've ever been to.
Uh-huh.
And the conversation was so rich. And I'm like, that's my everyday. So what I get to do every day is abnormal to some people. And for me, it's my normal.
Uh-huh.
So how do we, I find this whole experience, this whole project of being human to be so fascinating. Like, really, I mean, think about it. We got plopped on this planet to do what? Michael Singer's my favorite. I mean, the untethered soul and everything
Uh-huh.
about living untethered and the surrender experiment. He says that the world is unfolding perfectly every day. It's just not meeting our expectations. How much simpler does it get than that?
Uh-huh.
It's so true. The world is unfolding perfectly every moment of every day. It's just not meeting our expectations. I'm like, that is brilliant for me. I just find that to be the most amazing way of looking at the world.
Yeah.
And he's just a gift for me.
Yeah.
And there are some people that others talk to them. I mean, Eckhart Tolle, and they talk about pain bodies and subscars. It's the same thing.
Mhm.
The biggest thing when I was looking for a new relationship, and I love the woman that I'm with, and I love my kids, I actually love my ex-wife. But the biggest thing for me was finding someone who owned their own feelings.
Mm.
I never wanted to hear again, "You made me angry," because I don't have that much power. I do what I do, and you react. And now I'm sorry if what I did caused you pain. But I didn't wake up in the morning trying to make you angry. But what I did hit your subscars, your pain bodies, your own challenges in your life. And my opportunity is to make a choice once I figure out what those are. And there's three options in that situation. I totally adapt so that you never feel that again.
Mm.
Not exactly the best way to live. I do nothing and expect you to heal the thing yourself. That's not productive either. But there's something in the middle. You work on your issue of feeling the pain,
Mhm.
and I'll understand what it is that I did that caused you to get angry and try to adjust my behavior. But if I totally adjust my behavior just so you never get angry, then you're never healing your own wounds.
Mhm.
And that's all they are. Because we didn't come out of your mother's womb feeling angry.
Right.
That's learned behavior, in my opinion. So if it's learned behavior, how do we unlearn it? And that's most of the work I do with my coaching
Mm.
clients. Like you said, I love holding space for people and being a mirror for them to let them see themselves in a way that they never imagined themselves to be. That's what I do. And I'm really good at that. And I always thought I was an entrepreneur, but I'm a really good coach who was able to build a really good business because I found owners of companies that had lots of problems, and I would
Mhm.
coach them and I would say, "Oh, you have this problem. I can't fix it, but here's this other person who can fix it." And I introduce them and I take an override on their money,
Mhm.
and I start to make a lot more money. And I was making more money by referring other people into my clients than I was making from them paying me directly.
Mhm.
And that was pretty fascinating. And I'm learning now what it means to be a really good coach
Mhm.
and not trying to build a business, but just trying to make as much of an impact as possible on the people that I'm working with. And that's what I enjoy the most
Mhm.
is helping people find peace because honestly, at the end of the day, I think that's what we all seek.
Mhm.
Vanessa, I think we all want to find peace. We don't want the biggest house and the biggest car and the nicest vacation, although our mind wants that. Inside, we all want love. We want to feel grounded. We want to feel at home wherever we are. Getting more stuff. I don't know. I've been doing a lot of work over a decade now, studying Abraham Maslow and Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
Mhm.
And first of all, Maslow never created the hierarchy of needs. So there's no research, there's no pictures of a diamond or a pyramid in any of Maslow's work. So Maslow was talking about survival, food, water, shelter. Next set of survival, safety, love and belonging, self-esteem, self-actualization. And beyond that was self-transcendence, oneness with God. That's the work he was doing when he passed. And I don't believe it's about a hierarchy because I don't think self-esteem and self-actualization are needs at all. I think they're just desires and their potentials. So I think he was talking about a continuum of life and that I'm looking at redefining Maslow's intentions to be what I'm calling the ascension ladder is that we're all here to ascend and there's no rung on this ladder that's better than any other rung. It's just about being aware of where you are. And when you figure out where you are, you reach down to the people below you and help them up the ladder.
Mhm.
And you reach up to the people above you and say, what is it that you see that I don't see? And that's why we're here. I think it could be that simple, but we make it complicated. Society makes it complicated. Think about it. If you were born over 100 years ago, you wouldn't be driving a car, you'd be riding a horse,
Right.
and your life would be totally different. You'd probably be a lot colder than you are right now. You'd probably be living in some type of housing that is more cloth than brick and concrete and sheetrock. You'd be eating very differently than you do today. I mean, we're an amazing place in time when we really think about it. I was in a shuttle from the San Diego airport to a parking lot, and one of the guys was complaining about being stuck in Minneapolis for 3 hours.
Mm.
And I said, if you were alive 100 years ago, I mean, just be appreciative that you got in this little metal tube with two engines on it that
Mhm.
flew you from Minneapolis to San Diego in 3.5 hours. Where if you were alive 100 years ago, it might have taken you 4 months. You would have been gone by covered wagon with a horse and you might have died. Can you have any appreciation for the fact that you had a 3 hour layover? I'm sorry that you had a 3 hour layover. I'm really sorry that you did. And get over it. I mean, life is just too short and too simple to be complaining about getting stuck in a building that has a roof and running water and restaurants that you can eat at You can actually go meet some other people while you're sitting there, or go learn something on your computer, or do something to fill your time until you get into this machine that is brilliant,
Mm.
that allows you to fly from one place to another in a fraction of the time that it did to travel 100 years ago. But we don't function that way. Don't learn that way. Don't become present to the reality of what life is. We're trying to make it what we want it to be. And it's not meeting our expectations. That's Michael Singer's favorite line. The world's unfolding perfectly. It's just not meeting our expectations.
Mhm.
And to me, I think that's the challenge that we face in life, is that we expect the world to be a certain way and it's not.
Now, you've talked earlier about what you do. And one of the questions I like to ask around what you do is kind of unconventional. So I'll ask you this question and then you don't need to reiterate, but just maybe come at it from a different angle. So
Sure.
tell us the why behind what you do and then tell us what you do.
So my why, pretty straightforward. My why is to help people connect to themselves, help them connect to others, and help them connect to the resources that they could they could use to make this planet better than we found it. I mean, at the end of the day, my why is about connection. And the connecting to self is my coaching work. So I help people find themselves. My connecting to others, I run something I call, which is a private invite only. It's not, there's no website, there's no nothing. If you live in San Diego and I meet you and you're a purpose driven human, I've been telling people for over a decade now, I'm looking for self aware, world changing, get shit done dolphins. And I have this construct of sharks, dolphins, and sharks that dress up as dolphins. So the sharks are the takers, the dolphins are the givers, and the
Mm.
sharks dress as dolphins are the matchers. They give, but they want something in return. So I'm looking for pure givers. And when I meet those people, I invite them to join my community. I have a
Mhm.
small monthly fee and I do potluck dinners and I bring people together. So tonight I'm having 20 plus people at my office, and we're going to break bread and get to know each other and not talk about work.
Yeah.
We're here to talk about being human. So I connect people. And then I'm very engaged in the philanthropic community. So I help people. My biggest goal, if I had a dream right now, and I have two clients like this and I'm looking for more, I want to find young, wealthy couples with kids. And I want to teach them how to teach their kids about money through giving it away
Mm.
versus consuming it. So philanthropy versus consumption. And our society teaches consumption. And I don't think it's the best way to learn about money.
Mm.
Money is energy. Money is a tool for us to use to benefit everyone around us. And the more we do that, the more it comes to us, because the world works that way.
Mhm.
And that's what I do. So I empower people to be themselves. I empower them to connect with others that they wouldn't have met without me. And then I help them find the resources they need to do their work on this planet,
Mhm.
which I think if we all looked inside and saw the thing that we were supposed to work on while we're here, then the world would be a beautiful place. Yet we're taught anger, we're taught war, we're taught hostility, we're taught all these things, but it's not who we were born to be.
Mhm.
It's who we've been taught to be. And the challenge is most people before they die will never sing their song because they didn't even know they were supposed to sing. So they're living as caterpillars,
Mm.
trying to figure out how to be the best caterpillar possible. And their journey is to stop, slow down, attach themselves to a branch of a tree, hang upside down, spin a cocoon, and become a butterfly. Yet most humans never get to chrysalis.
Mhm.
They stall at trying to be the best caterpillar possible and never want to climb the tree. And to me, that shift is going from blaming everybody around you for all your problems in life to looking inside and saying, where does my pain live with inside me? I think that is the shift that most humans fail to ever go on.
Your story around teaching children reminds me of my son. While he was growing up, we thought it was important for him to do volunteer work with us. So
Mhm.
I grew up volunteering all the time. And there was a particular organization that served Thanksgiving dinners to families that couldn't afford a meal. And so
Sure.
my family was a recipient of that meal when we were younger. But then when I grew up and I was of age to volunteer myself, I did that for a few years. And so in one of those years, I took him with me and his dad as well. And we helped prepare the meal before Thanksgiving, but then we delivered like about 50, 60 meals on the day of. So we were driving all over town and we spent the day, interacting with families and delivering meals, but then we didn't have our dinner until way later, until we got home. And so that was for me important to teach him and to expose him to, other ways of living and other people and how they live, but not even just that, but also to understand that the human spirit is resilient and that there may be issues that some people have that he's going to see that day, but they're also hopeful. They also have dreams and they have the desire to continue to live. And they they're not just in their struggles. And that's how I was raised. I was raised in a very, difficult environment, but I got myself out of that and I raised myself. I was able to, find whatever it was that I needed to survive. And in a way, that was also partially music. And so when he was growing up, I just thought, even though no one did that for me, I just felt it to a very important lesson for him to see that. And with that, he grew such compassion for everyone. And now, in his little friend circle, he's 22 now. But he's a very compassionate person. He's very mindful of other people's feelings and their situations. Before he lived alone with his biological mother, and he just was indoors doing nothing or just watching Netflix or what have you. But when he came to be with us, every summer, every other holiday, it was an opportunity to give him an experience about the world around him and to educate him on other basic things that he wasn't taught before. There are some things that you teach your children, like how to do your laundry, how to balance a checkbook and such. And I always joke with him that, no child of mine is going to call me at 2 a.m. asking, how do you turn on the washer? But yeah, he is a wonderful human, and I'm so thankful that I got to give him that, give him those priceless moments that he'll forever remember. Yeah, that was a wonderful experience.
Yeah, my children went to Africa when they were 10 and 12. We spent a month in Uganda and Kenya, and we were at a building with about 10 youth that the organization I was with sponsored some students, $25 a year to go to school. So it's not like they had to raise millions of dollars to put these kids through school. And they were writing letters to the schools that sponsored them. And my son was 10 years old at the time. He says, "Can I say something?" We're like, "Sure, Noah." He said, "You know what's really interesting is that all of you here would do anything to go to school for a day.
Hmm.
And me and my friends would do anything to get out of school for a day." I was a 10-year-old from the United States talking to kids from Uganda that school was their way out. School
Hmm.
was a gift. And to the kids in the United States, I still believe that there's a opportunity that if every student in a well-to-do community in the United States was forced to spend 3 months at least in a third world country as a teenager, that our society would shift in a matter of years, that
Hmm.
we could be such a different culture of appreciation that we just don't have. I see so much entitlement in our culture today, and it saddens me that we lack appreciation for others' situations in life and believe that what we have. I live in Southern California. I
Hmm.
mean, this is one of the most affluent places in the world. And there's people that have never left that
Hmm.
believe that this is life. This is a bubble. I've lived in New York and San Diego for most of my life. I lived in Pittsburgh for a year and a half. I lived in Florida for a year, but most
Hmm.
of my life has been on the two coasts. And I know that that is a privilege. And people
Hmm.
ask me all the time, why do I live in San Diego? I live in San Diego because I can. I mean, I've been to 42 countries in every state in the continent,
Yeah.
in the United States, except for North Dakota and Alaska. And there's no place I'd rather be but here. And it's a
Mm.
choice, it's a conscious choice. And I just don't understand the lack of empathy that people
Yeah.
have for other situations around the world and around the country. And I believe that we are really starving for connection. I mean, the Harvard study over the last 85 years has proven that there is one criteria for happiness at 80, and they can tell it whether they're going to be happy at 80 at 50. And that one criteria is the quality of your primary relationships, not just your spouse, but the friends around you. Because if you don't have a lot of good quality friends at 50, you're not going to
Hmm.
be happy at 80. And we just don't teach that. We don't teach human connection. We don't teach people how to build relationships. We don't teach them to continue to connect with others because that's why we're here. We teach people to go chase winning and to capture the flag and to
Right.
he who dies with the most toys wins. What is that? I don't understand it.
Yeah. When I traveled the country for not well, yeah, country, not the other countries. This one for 4 years straight interviewing strangers about happiness, I heard so many different variations of personal happiness. And then there at the end there was a question of what is your message to the world? And observing that and hearing so many different answers and some similar answers actually as well. It was interesting to kind of go on the journey with them and almost live their experience. And then after that, I transitioned into Humanity 2.0, which is where we are now. And I found that there were so many moments of humanity in the footage that I captured that it just would be a crime against humanity to not display it. And then the podcast came about because I've been doing it forever. But in the podcast, the whole reason for it is to allow humanity to be displayed in front of others who would normally have never heard your story or your experiences. And then also your opinion on, what is the future of humanity, or where are we, or why are we the way we are, in whatever way that you choose to answer that. So because of this show, I think that, people are able to receive information that they never would have, and then think about how they could become more compassionate or more empathetic and become that humanity 2.0 that we desperately need. And like you said about human connection, we need that. We crave that. We are human connective. What is it? Like when you have a deficiency, right? So we have a deficiency of connection. And I think that it's really important that we interact with other humans and listen to their perspectives. One thing I've never done is I've never had a guest, stop talking about whatever it was that they chose to talk about. Like kind of a censorship. I've never done that because I think that there is something to be said in being allowed to freely express yourself and then let the person that's viewing or listening develop their own opinion based on what you said.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. All that to say, I'm thankful for the entire experience, similar to yourself. Now, if you could share a message with humanity, any message at all, what would you tell them?
I would say kindness is the first message yet. I would say the biggest thing for me to help people understand what it means to be human. So if I could talk to humanity and say, really think about it. We're on this planet that is able to fit 1.2 million of us inside a sun that heats our planet, that's rotating in space. So this planet rotates on an axis and it spins around a sun. And we're this minute little thing on this planet. And why do we think we're so important? And why does the world need to revolve around us? And understand what it means to be human. And to me, it means to be human as we are a being that has access to a mind and a body. We have thoughts and we have feelings. And our opportunity here is to experience those and to decide what to do with them versus have them own us. And most of the humans that I've met in my life, their thoughts and their feelings own them. And how do we get humans to be present, not distracted by all the stuff around us, to be present to what it means to be human? And that's the wish that I have for humanity today.
That's an excellent answer. Can you tell us a little bit about your book and also where people can find your work, your social handles, all that good stuff?
Sure. My book's available on Amazon in Kindle, paperback, and Audible. My website is 5-dots.com. And the name 5 Dots came from Steve Jobs' commencement speech at Stanford in 2005. Can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking backwards. You have to trust in something, your gut, karma, that the dots will somehow connect. And I love that speech. And every company I've had for the last 20 years has had a number and a name. So for profit, for thought, liberate, now 5 Dots. It's been fascinating. You can get the book online. I'm on LinkedIn. You can find me, and my email is really easy, Larry@Kesslin.com. If you go to Kesslin.com, you'll find my brother. I also own Larry at LarryKesslin.com, but either one works. And I just love connecting with other humans. So if you're interested, reach out. I had somebody who's coming to dinner tonight who read my book, lives here in San Diego, reached out to me via email. We had a beautiful conversation. I invited him to one of my dinners, and I'm going to get to meet him tonight, William. And
Awesome.
just enjoy meeting people that are into figuring out more about who they are and why they're here.
We will definitely put all of the links in our description for this episode so people can find you. And for all of you listening and or watching, thank you for watching or listening to another episode of Humanity 2.0 podcast. Be sure to follow Larry and also follow the show and subscribe. Above all, be good to other humans. And like Larry said, connect with other people. Take time to connect with other people, but then also connect with yourself and see what the possibilities are. Thank you so much, Larry Kesslin, for being here. We appreciate you. And as a human, I'm so happy to hear someone else talk about humanity and connecting humanity. I'm so happy.
Thank you, Vanessa. Pleasure to be here, and you have an amazing day.
You too. Have the best
I'm
day
not
of your
sure
life.
we know what
Take
it
care.
means to be
Humanity
human.
2.0 podcast is brought to you by Vanessa the Vivacious Productions. Want to be a guest? Visit the link in the episode description for future guest opportunities. Ready to podcast like a boss? Join Podmatch and begin your Podmatch journey via the link also listed in the description. Subscribe to Humanity 2.0 podcast on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, and more. Follow and help support the show by buying humanity a cup of coffee via buymeacupofcoffee.com/humanity 2.0 podcast. Above all, don't forget to be good to other humans. See you guys next time.